All right, so to get to the back test, first of all, you're going to go to New, come down to Strategy Analyzer, and then that's going to bring up the screen that I have behind me. First, I'm going to go over back testing, and then I'll go over optimizing. So what I have pulled up here is just a simple strategy with a simple profit target, simple stop loss, nothing too crazy. We're going to test it on, say, a 5-minute NQ chart, and with that, we want to make sure we always include commission, and we'll go slippage 3 just because we want to stress it as much as possible. Generally, NQ has about a 2 slippage, but sometimes it can go high as 5 or 8 during news events or we have fast price moving. So just keep that in mind. 2 to 3, I think that's a good range for NQ. ES, you're really only going to need 1 or 2. So we'll start here. Let's just go 1,000, and then this will just run a back test over the beginning of 2022 through now, and that shouldn't take too long. What I have shown down here is logs, and we'll get into the logs after, so I'm going to hide those for now to less of a distraction. Okay, so Violet Scimitar back tested over 2 years. Pretty simple stuff. You can go into analysis on it to see kind of the day of the weeks. It should default to daily and cumulative net profit. I think the analysis part is what we're really going to dive into today, because this is where we're going to get into optimizing and improving your strategy through analysis. Does anyone have questions on how to backtest or pull up the backtest? Okay, so there's a couple different things on here. You can see your trades, your orders, your settings, Monte Carlo if you want to look in ticks, currency, anything like that. I find currency the easiest to use. One thing you can also do is go and look at the trades on a chart. So you could say, hey, I want to see how my trade looked on the chart. Is it buying and selling, or I want it to sell? Do I need to add a filter or something like that? And you can look at your trades visually to see that, and we'll get into that here in a second. So let's just go through optimizing real quick and how to run an optimizer, and then we'll go into analyzing and improving, because that's going to be where the value of this video comes from. So let's go into optimization. You're just going to click here instead of backtest and optimization. I'm not going to get into any of these other today. We're just going to go through optimizing today by itself. So what optimizing is going to do is it's going to give you a range of variables that you can pre-select, and then it's going to check all of those, and then based on what you pick to optimize it on, it's going to run all of those variables and spit out the results that you pick. So let's just run 250 through 1500, 250, 1500 in various increments of 250. So I'm just going to do some stuff to make it faster for you guys. We're just going to optimize, and just for the sake of this, since I'm live, we're just going to go year to date. But typically you would want a couple of years of data to go through. So here's where it can get tricky, where people don't know where to start, and knowing where to start, I find, will help you analyze and optimize faster. So a lot of people will just go with the default max profit factor. I have found that works okay, but my favorite thing to start with is actually max net profit. So what I want to do is I want to get the whole cow, right? And I want to trim it down to a steak to put on my plate. So by going with max profit, I know I'm getting the maximum amount of money I could possibly get on the board, and then I'm going to start figuring out, okay, how do I get those losses down while maintaining the most amount of profit? So how do I get the fat off while keeping all the meat? So we're going to run, I usually go max 30 results, otherwise it can mess around with your machine, but you could probably go 50 or 100, but you're not typically going to need more than 30. So let's go ahead and optimize this. It's going to run every interval from 250 to 1500 at a 250 increment. So that means it'll check 250, 500, 750, 1000, so on and so forth. And then it's going to check those times this. So the more variables you add, the more iterations you're going to add, and the longer it's going to take. I typically don't do more than, if I'm doing it during the day, I like to do maybe 10 to 20 minute increments. Overnight, I think it's okay to do an 8 hour optimization or however long you normally sleep, because you're not going to be there anyways. You might as well test as much stuff and put your computer to work. So let's go ahead and run this, see if we get any results, and then I'll go into how we can analyze the results and get some improvements. Okay, so it looks like we have decent profit year to date, 12K. That's about 1,700 a month. That alone would be interesting enough for me to potentially add this to my portfolio. That drawdown though at 10,000, I don't love that. So how are we going to improve that? So you can see here on the second line, we captured 46,000 in profit, but we lost 33,000 in gross losses. So our net profit was only 12.4 thousand. So how do we keep this and minimize this? That's where we have to go into the data and see, okay, where can we add stuff to improve the profit to loss ratio, which is our net profit. So first thing I usually do is I go into analysis. I look at the equity curve. Okay. Next thing I'll do is I'll just take a quick peek at days of the week, and I'll see, okay, are there certain days that my strategy doesn't work with? And there's reasons why that can happen. Friday, you get different price action than you would on a market open Monday. Wednesdays are typically a news heavy day, and you can get some wild price action on a Wednesday. So sometimes that can fake strategies out. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, generally you have more mean reversion or choppy scenarios because you don't have as much data driving the market. Wednesdays you usually have your reactions and you can have very trending days one way or the other. Fridays, you have a lot of things that go on, from options expiration, triple and quad witching, holidays. A lot of people don't like the holdover weekends, so a lot of times Fridays you might see it closed right where we opened. And I think today is options expiration, so that's another one where today, if you've been seeing some wild price action, options expiration can have a lot to do with that. So, maybe I'll add a filter to my strategy. Say, okay, let's not let's not have it trade on Wednesdays, or let's not have it trade on Fridays. But first of all, what I'll do is I'm running this instrument all of future hours. It's possible it just might be better during the cash session. So let's go look at the half hour of day, and we want to do entry times. I never do exit times because for me, I want to know when is it entering. I don't really care when it's exiting, because what we can control is the entry. We can somewhat control the exit, but what we really want to do is control the entry as best as possible, and then we can work on improving the profit after that. So we could see here, this one typically trades overnight and doesn't trade as much during the market hours. And I don't remember exactly what this one does. It might be built into the code that way. But, something you could do is add a time filter. If you see a very strong correlation with certain times, if you were to backtest this over multiple years and you see that the Euro Open or the cash session open or Asia Open particularly just don't work for the strategies, that would be reason enough for me to go add a time filter and take those out, because those are events that are calculable and not just random noise. So a lot of times when you have the Euro Open or cash session open, you'll get very strong moves one way or the other, and that can be detrimental if your algo is not built for that. So by eliminating those times, you could potentially improve your algo's effectiveness. So again, we're gonna there's three main things I usually do. It's looking at the day of the week, the half hour of the day, and then I'll go look at the chart too if I need to. So I'll go try to find some losses on the chart and say, okay, is there something that I need to eliminate those? So like if I'm looking at this and this is shorting here, I don't actually think that was a bad short. Maybe just a little early, because you can see we went down after that. So potentially I might need a larger stop loss for that. One thing you can do is you can right click and just open up this optimization by itself um, in another tab. So let's just go ahead and do that real quick. And then it'll rerun the back test. And now we can change just this one, and we don't have to rerun the optimizer. So maybe we don't have we want to do a stop loss of 2,000 to see if that improves it. We can go run that. It did not. So we know right away that increasing the stop loss is not desirable. But what we do know is we like these higher price targets, higher stop losses, and potentially we don't have the right time frame. So if I'm just going to start, I just normally start with a time frame that I think the strategy would work on, and then I try to go and see if it works on different time frames. And what I mean by that is when you're developing your strategy, you should know what it does. And if you're buying a strategy from someone or using someone else's strategy, you should get a good enough description of it to know when it's on a chart potentially where it's going to buy. So that way you know kind of what time frame to use it on. So for instance, this one I forget what it does, but let's go and figure out if it works on other time frames. So we're going to have the static stop loss in PT at 1250 and 1500. But now what we're going to do is we're going to optimize the data series. So that's going to be right under here under optimize. What that's going to allow us to do is filter through all the different time frames and see if there's one that's better than the other. So we can go 5 all the way up to 240 in increments of 5, and this will go really fast because the larger the time frame you optimize on, the faster it's going to do because there's less bars for it to process. So let's just go and hit run there, and that should take 30 seconds once it gets going. Just give that a question, and while that's running, I'll read what Hex wrote here. When you do the optimization on your end, how granular do you go with optimizing? I know you're going over 250 increments for time's sake. I probably, depending on the instrument, I try not to go extremely granular. Like you don't want to optimize your price target down to the tick. I've seen that done, and I've done it in the past. And what I have found is in live testing, um, I just don't get the results that I would. That's what I would classify as potentially overfitting. That said, with NQ, I might go down to like a 5 tick. So I might, go 5. I might start with like a 20 price target if I'm going by ticks, and go up to 100 ticks, and I might go in increments of 5. This strategy is built off of currency, so the strategy is in dollar amount. So I might go as granular as $50 to $100. Because that's going to be, I think 25 bucks would be 5 ticks on NQ. So I might go down to $25. Do not know why this is not calculating. It's probably because I don't have the bars built in my back tester. So it's building all those bars, and then it'll run really fast. There we go. All right. I was right. So it looks like the 5 minute is actually the best time frame based on our data, but what we did find here is a really curious one. There is one underneath here for looking at profit factor that had 2,000 drawdown and almost the same profit. So I'm almost always going to go for that because the win rate's significant higher, but the trades are much lower. But again, I'm just trying to show you guys potentially what you could do, and that is a 55-minute clock, 55-minute value. And I don't I don't love having weird time frames. I would much rather have preferred that to be, say, 60. So what I'll do now is we'll go back to back testing here, and we'll go 1250, 1500, and I'll just see if the 60 works as good as the 55, and we'll run that real quick. It does not. The difference is significant, actually. Yeah, the difference is wild. And I couldn't tell you unless I was looking at the chart why that would be, but um, it could just mean that extra 5 minutes makes all the difference in the entries. I mean, those entries look solid. This looks to be a reversal algo that I got from, I think I got this from Jake's group. I'm not sure. Either way, let's go to a more complicated one so we can see how to compartmentalize, say, a complicated one and go from there. So, all right, so I'm going to pull up my Jon Snow algo. This is actually one that I've taken to the extreme off of one of my buddy Jake's algos. It's pretty much a completely new algo by now, but I'm just going to load a template. We're going to run a back test on it to see how it's doing year to date, and we'll do this ES one, and we'll run that through today. Include commission. ES, I usually just do one tick of slippage. You could do two if you really wanted to be safe, though. I'll just run a quick back test here, and then we'll get into how we could try to improve it. And this one has a lot more settings, so it doesn't have as many entry settings. This one is primarily has a lot of exit settings. So I try to keep the entries as low as possible. Oh, this is supposed to be an ES. Helps if I pick the right ticker. Let's give this a second. All right, so looks like from the start of 2023 through 2024, we're at about 26K in profit. We'll look at the analysis board and go to daily, cumulative net profit. So we like the equity curve. This is definitely one that I use live on my portfolio right now. So let's go and see if we could analyze it and potentially make it better. So I'll go through this strategy real quick and how this works. This is a trend strategy. It's not too complicated. It uses different types of trend continuations. So it's looking for a pullback after strong moves. So we can analyze that through a variety of things such as stochastics, RSI, MFI, MACD. There's all different ways you can analyze trend. This one's looking for a very small pullback after a large move to get a slightly better entry. So we're looking for a very large move and then a quick consolidation and continuation of that move. So that's just so you guys understand the algo that we're looking at right now and can understand like why we're gonna do what we're gonna do from here. So what I've added to this one is a variety of different settings. I typically will add a ton of stuff to an algo to test things out, and then I'll strip those parts out once I find they don't work, because if they don't work, you don't need them in there. But you don't know potentially if they'll work until you test them. And a lot of those are in particular to exiting and maximizing your profit. Depends, RJM. I've run probably close to 50 to 100 strategies in Sim. Typically, my live accounts have 3 to 4. I try to find the best ones that are working in the environments while tracking all of them, and I'll pick the ones that I like the most for those. And particularly, I do that because I 99% of what I do is prop firm trading, so I have to keep things simple so that I stick within their rules. So I'll try to pick one or a couple that work within the prop firm environment. So my strategy parameters here are pretty simple. Um, I'm looking at a range. The range is actually for range targets, so I'll look at the last like 100 candles and I'll say, okay, what is the range of the last 100 candles? And I want to target half of that range from a profit target and stop loss. The trading parameters on this are simply I'm looking at trend strength, and I'm looking at ATR and ADX strength. So I want the ATR to be big enough for the move to be big enough, and I want the trend strength to be big enough. And then the long and short strength is like the strength of the up thrust and the strength of the down thrust. So that's typically how this strategy works. I'm more stringent on the downside because I have found it does. We don't usually trend down in the markets, but we do have strong profit taking, which causes down thrusts. So this is very strict on this algo. So um, do you always use standard order fill resolution for algos? When would you use high? When I'm optimizing, I'll use standard order fill resolution because it does it faster. And then if I really want to stress test it, um, I will do high. Typically, though, I go with lower time frame stuff as well as always on bar close with almost 90% of what I make. So I don't have as many issues with high fill order resolution versus, say, uh, standard. And really, what that's going to help you with is your exits. So that's going to say, okay, did the wick hit, when we're having that, when it's filling the bar, are we going to have issues where you might not say that on a 5 minute bar, are we going to hit that in between? Because on a standard, it's not going to check that. It just goes open, high, low, close for the 5 minutes. So yeah, if you want more granularity and you want to trust your algo more, I would always run when you're done optimizing it, run it on a higher time frame or lower time frame, high resolution. So we could run this, say, on the 1 minute and see if it changes the results. And that'll take a second. But did that answer your question, Mig? Cool. So you can see it actually improved the results, which is fantastic. We like that. So uh, we got a lower drawdown and a higher profit, I think. You can look at your last one here. So with the standard, we got a higher drawdown and lower profit, and then with the higher order fill resolution, we got higher profit, lower drawdown. So in this instance, that's great. That's what we want to see. So yeah, this strategy I've had for a long time. This is actually based off of Jacob's worst performing strategy, which is hilarious. But I found that kind of funny. But anyways, so some things that I've added to my stuff is I have the ability to trail the profit. I have the ability to pick the day of the week. And you guys can go get this. My skeleton that I put in the code examples, or not code examples, free strategies. The skeleton there has everything that you see on my screen right here. So it has the trading sessions, it has the three different time frames, it has the different days of the week, it has the trail to target, it has the daily max loss, daily max profit, it has the long and short ticks. The only thing it doesn't have is the strategy parameters, right? So if you guys want to add the stuff that I have here to your algos, you can go do that. So let's go ahead and see if we can optimize this a bit more, and I'll show you kind of how I compartmentalize something. We'll start out with a Jon Snow from scratch, and we'll just go reset to get the general settings, and we'll just start with all simple ones. Sometimes I'll save the defaults as an actual strategy, so um, we're going to worry about safe mode right now. We're just going to use hard targets. We're going to go 6 to 4. We're not going to use, we'll use a trail. We use a 50 tick trail. So what the trail does is we're still going to have a target, but this is going to make it so that if we get in profit, we don't give it all back and hit stop loss, especially if we're going to use larger stops. We don't want that. I'm okay losing some trades and making a small amount of profit. It protects my portfolio. I'm really big on having low drawdown strategies and making a lot of them instead of having like a huge profit target on one strategy, but it has a large drawdown. And if you start it right, yeah, you'll make a lot of money. But I want something to work every month of the year, and that's why I go down and I try to make low drawdown strategies, and also because I prop firm trade, so I need the low drawdown strategies. So let's go ahead and optimize. We'll get in here and we'll use trail hard targets 6 to 4 every day of the week. We'll include Sunday. So I want to start with as wide of settings as possible when I'm optimizing, and then I'm gonna slowly whittle those down so I can get that 4K resolution. We're starting with like a VHS resolution. We wanna whittle that down. So let's go with some simple profit targets. Usually what I'll do is I'll go 50, 200. This is NQ we're gonna do this on, since we just did ES and we know we have a strategy that we like. And because I have 4 of these, everything we add in is going to be everything we add in is going to add more iterations, and we want to do this pretty fast. So I'm just going to do it year to date so it goes fast. NQ will go slippage 2, or we go 50, 50, 50 on all these. Max loss. This is going to be my max profit and loss are daily, so this is going to be when it shuts off. I would be okay with something losing potentially $2,000 in a day if it was the only system I had. So I'll start there, and we can always optimize that later. And then I like to do at least a 1-to-1 risk reward there. So I usually keep those the same. So what I'm going to typically do is start out with some variables up here that I think are good, and I'm going to optimize the profit targets and stop losses first. I also have bars between trades. We're just going to go 5 here. We'll go max trades in a day, 5. I don't want it over trading, so this is something new that I started adding, was bars between trades and max trades. I think this is important on particularly a trend-based system, where if your system usually, if you're looking at it, tends to buy at the end of the trend, you don't want it going back-to-back trades, and this particular strategy is known for doing that. So let's just optimize here. I think these are good other settings, so we'll just do this, and we'll show you here how, there's only 4 things it's doing for each one, but 4 times 4 times 4 times 4, all of a sudden we have 256 iterations. That's why I start broad, so that I can optimize fast, and then I start to whittle it down. So if I find a range that I really like, then I target that range, and I'll get more granular in that range. And I'll show you that. Well, we're going to do that next. So we immediately got some good results. That's really good. Looks like we're only capturing a little less than half the profit. So if you guys hear my dogs in the background, I think the mailman walked by. I apologize for that. So we see it likes the higher ones, except for the shorts, which is fine for me on the short. I don't love the short to long ratio, even though it works. I don't like that my average winning trade. Oh, let's see, short. Average losing trade, average winning trade, and average losing trade. Ah, it must be because I have the trail. I was like, why is it so different? Okay, so the trail is helping here in this instance. So we'll go 50. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go granular in here. I'm gonna add, I'm just gonna go around what it picks. So if it's 200 here, I might go like 150, 250, go 10, we'll go 100 here. Well, we know 100 doesn't work, so we'll go 90. We know that doesn't work, so we'll go 160. The same thing for here. We'll go 110 through 190 now that we know the range. We'll go 10. I'll go 160. Now this is going to add a little bit more. I think this will add more iterations than we had last time. But that's okay. It was going fast enough where I'm okay with running that. So we'll run that 10. Probably be, 6,500. So that went from 246 to 6480. I don't think that'll take more than a couple minutes. And while that's going, what kind of questions do you guys have? We have a couple minutes here. I can answer some questions. Actually, let me abort this and change these to 25 so that goes a little faster. Don't optimize both long and shorts. Yeah, you could do long at one time and then do short. So if you just wanted to optimize the longs by themselves and then optimize the short. So, I mean, a lot of times you might have your long and short profits the same for your strategy. I like to break it up because I don't think longs and shorts trade the same. So I have found that, especially on NQ, NQ's very bullish normally because, the Power 7 drive it. So something to keep in mind there as well. And the Komodo makes a good point there. If your computer isn't very high end or you have a slow VPS that you're doing it on, you might want to get even smaller and just do a section of the optimizations. Mig's like, I want all your secrets. I don't have all the secrets, but hopefully I can help you guys improve. That's the whole point. All right, so I don't actually know if we got a huge improvement there. Look at the log here. And we made an extra $500 out of it, kept the drawdown the same. So let's go work and see if we can get this drawdown down. And we'll go 125 here. We'll lock these in. We're happy enough with these that we're going to go start messing with other ones so that we don't spend all day on optimizing price targets. Now, the problem with the short side here is I don't know if the risk reward is good enough to fit Apex's stringent shit that they have out in there now. So I'm just going to optimize the daily profit and see if that makes a difference here real quick. Shouldn't take too long. So this is kind of what I'm doing. I'm going to optimize stuff here. Then I'll start looking at the chart, time of days, and things like that. But I want to get general settings first and see if we can get something really good piece of ice to work from to make our ice angel. This should take 30 seconds max. Okay. Okay, we like the 2000 and we like the 2000. So let's start with 2000, put that up to 5000. I'm not personally okay with having more than a $2,000 loss in a day, so I'm just going to lock that in, and we're going to see if we want to up the profits. And so maybe there's days where it kicks ass and we want to make sure we're capturing more profits. So uh, looks like 2,000, 2,500 was the same. We got a little bit more out of 2,500, so we're going to lock that in. Now we're going to start analyzing some other things like time of the day. So we like the equity curve. Looks like it's been doing really well lately. We've been in a very volatile market where this is really good in. So let's go look at half hour of the day, entry time. We see two huge outliers there. So market open at night, it doesn't like. So I'm just going to immediately axe that right away. Have this start at 8:30, which I believe 8:30 is Asia open. I sometimes forget. I think that's Asia open. So it makes sense that that's going to be when we start to get trends. And then looks like the day open here, some really bad losses. So I'm just going to have this play the Asia open to 11:30. And then we're going to have it start again during just prior to Euro Open, and we'll run that through Market Open. And it doesn't particularly love the cash session, but for some reason it loves the lunch hour, so we'll let it run the lunch hour. 12 to 2. And then on here, I want to make sure I use all my times, so I'm going to make those true. And since we've locked in everything else, we don't actually have anything to optimize it on. So let's go ahead and see if the max trades per day, we should up that or lower it. So now that we know the time of days it works, we're going to go and note that. Okay, now look at that. We have already got our max drawdown in half, and we were able to keep all of our profit. Looks like it likes max trades at 2. So we're going to keep that. I'm just going to see if the bars between trades, something simple makes a difference. We're just going to go with 2 to 200. Increments of 2. Since it's on the 5-minute, we shouldn't need more than 200 there, but that should go really fast. Komodos are my boys. They like to promote things for me. Alright, looks like it didn't really make a difference, so we can just keep that at 2. So, let's go ahead and see if there's any days of the week we need to get rid of here. Doesn't like Sunday. Let's take it off Sunday. Yeah, I can't blame it for not liking Sunday. I don't particularly love to trade Sundays, and Fridays again are usually chop. So, one thing you can do as well, instead of day of the week and just analyzing all of it, you can look where your drawdown is coming from by just looking at the losers here. So if you see that there's days where you're having a ton of losses on, um, and those are profitable days, you could consider, even though it's a profitable day, you might consider getting rid of it just because you're trying to get your drawdown down. You could remove a time of day or such and such. So like if we were to do the hour of the day analysis, we're going to see our most profitable time is going to be market open, right? Because that's when we get our strongest moves, which is fine. But what's probably going to happen is we're probably going to get our most losers there too. Yeah. So you can see there, in particular, that market open, or this is pre-market, so this would be, I don't know why it's trading there. It shouldn't be trading there. Did I set my times wrong? Oh, I have it starting. Okay, yeah, okay, no, that's right. Okay, that makes sense. So let's look at the winners again, because it really doesn't like this particular time. So we might want to start it. We might actually want to start it a little after Euro open. Even though we're getting rid of some profit here, it's going to be a lot of profit we're getting rid of, or a lot of losses we're potentially getting rid of. And just so we can optimize something, just have it do this real quick. So looks like overall that actually improved, or it made our algo worse from both ends, less profit and less drawdown. So in this instance, we'll see by getting rid of that, it makes the algo less consistent, because even though we have a lot of losses there, we have a lot of wins there, and those wins we need to make the algo more consistent. So we're going to add that back and lock it in. Okay, we're happy with the times now. We're happy with the bars between trades. This is where I'll finally go and I'll start to mess with some of my strategy parameters. So I might go like 50 to 100, check out the differences there, and then this to 50 and 5, and we'll run to see if we can improve it here as well. This is what I'm doing. I'm trying to compartmentalize each section of my algo and start with a base, and then I'll go and see if there's ways we can improve it. Now, when you have this many strategies, it's harder to do the time, or this many settings. It can be a little bit more difficult to do um, based on time frame, because there's a lot of settings that you're going to have to optimize on, and every time you add a new time frame in, that's just going to make it worse and worse. So okay, we like the settings that we had. Looks like there was a more profitable one in terms of win rates and all that, but it does have a slightly more drawdown. Also takes less trades. Let me go look at that, see the differences. Which is what we had actually, so. So yeah, I understand the overfitting part of your question there because this particular strategy does have a lot of settings. Um, and what I have found, oops, didn't have anything to optimize on. What I found is I think it's more okay to have order handling settings than entry settings. You can optimize or you can overfit the crap out of your entries, but I think it's a little bit easier to make sure that you're securing your profit. And the reason I've done a lot of this stuff is like when I'm looking at the chart, I'm looking at my trades. I want to see how they're trading. So here's a good one here. Um, Looks like these had the trailing stops on them. So this hit the trailing stop here and hit the trailing stop there as well. So if we took that off, we could probably see the difference here. So let's just go ahead and open this up in a new tab, and I can kind of show you the difference with some of the overfitting that you could potentially do. So let's take the trail off and see if it makes a difference. So taking the trail off actually added profit to it. So it went from 21,365 to 2250. That's because the trail I have is rather large. It's 50 ticks, and it doesn't start till you're 50 ticks in profit. So on the short side, it's going to make no difference because if you're hitting the profit on the short side, it doesn't matter. And then the long side, you have such a large stop that maybe it needs that. So again, like what I'm looking at is, do I like the entries? And then, like I said, I only have 4 entry conditions. So I'm checking the trend. So these are my trend filters. And then I'm checking where it's at in the trend by looking at the strength. So what this is doing is it's saying, okay, I don't want it to take a trade until the trend is at 75 strength. I don't want it to take a trade short until the short strength is below 10. So this is just an RSI filter that I use there. And so as long as I have simple entry mechanics and simple entry um, conditions, trying to make sure that I get the most out of my trade is usually where I can tend to potentially overfit by having too many there, but I still try to keep it broad in terms of the numerical values. So like I don't want to get it down to the point. Like I want it to work with different values, right? If it works with different values, that's a good sign for one. If it works with, yeah, CMB, this stuff is just RSI, so I want the RSI value over 75 for long and under 10 for short. So I like RSI. I think it's a good indicator for trend strength. So if you guys have used it before, I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's one of the most popular ones. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of my approach. Is I'll look if I'm looking at adding to an algo. I typically like to look at the chart a lot, and you can actually even in here you can go and add indicators. So you can go add like you can go add RSI on the chart. You can do this for debugging too. So if you want to know if something's working, you can go look at your trades based on what your entry conditions can be, and you can use that to debug. So you can see here, like I want it to be at least 75, so it goes over 75, and like I said, this one plays pullbacks, so it has to be over and then come back to go in, and the same thing with here. Which is interesting because this does not look like it's under 10. And that might be because I have a different setting for RSI in my algorithm. I can't remember if I use the length of 14. I might use a much shorter length, so I might use like a 3 length. I gotta go look at that now. I'm wondering. Yeah, I might use a different length like that. So what other questions do you guys have? I know there's some people here that have never optimized before, and that's why the reason I'm hosting this is because people asked me how to optimize, so I wanted to do this for particularly them. When you try to take this optimization and try it on other years, if it doesn't work on other years, what would you do? Yeah, so let's try that. So we had a back test here. Let's go and run it back through 2022, and let's see what happens. That's a great question. Because if you do something, especially with this, like if you're just optimizing year to date, your algorithm might work for a couple of weeks, but as soon as conditions change, it's most likely not going to work anymore. So this is a great way to tell that we just overfitted the crap out of that, because this is not profitable. You could see literally only profitable from the day we started optimizing. Other than that, it's been absolutely terrible. So that's a great sign that you just over optimized, because what we're doing here is we're testing outside of what we optimized on, and if it doesn't work, that means we overfit it. That's a great way to tell that you overfit your algos, by testing it the same settings on a different year or different period of time. So this would be where I would just scratch it and start over because we just wasted a ton of time. So this would be where I would go and I would add, like I said, normally when I'd optimize, I use at least 2 years back. I try to go 3 to 4. I do know we had a very unique black swan event with the COVID, so optimizing during the COVID period, I find can be actually detrimental to algo building because of the way the markets move during then. It's very rare that we're going to get movement like that in the future, so that can actually mess up your optimization. So it's like 2020 through 2021. I usually will not use that year. Did that answer your question, RJM? Again, like today, just so we could optimize fast, I only did it year to date. In reality, you're never going to do that. I would never ever say you should do that unless you're doing like a scalper that uses tick data that you know is going to take thousands of trades. Then maybe, because you just don't want to sit there for 2 days and watch one optimization go through, then maybe that would be a scenario. But something like this that only takes 1 to 2 trades a day, we're not gonna use 8 months of data. In particular, you're gonna want probably multiple years of data. Yeah, so like for this, I would optimize 2022 through 2024 to start. So I would, if we did that, we would start over and we would go and we'd just do the exact same process, but we would just have more time, right? So we would start over, run this through there, and we won't use the trail this time. Typically, I won't add in these things right away. I might use a trail towards the end of optimizing to see if a trailing to target will help. I want to start with the simplest possible. So let's just start with simple PT stop loss, real simple settings. Um, we like these trading times, but that might just be for this year. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to uncheck the trading times. We're not going to get that granular. And we're just going to go 6 to 4. You could RJM, The problem I have with that is the market levels we're at, the moves that we make can be completely what the heck, that should not be that much. Something's wrong. There it is. There we go. So the problem I have with that, and this is, I go back and forth on this. If you're using hard targets, the moves that we make now are going to be bigger than the moves we made in 2018. Because, if we're at 5,000 on ES, and back in 2018 it was at 3,000, a 1% move is completely different than a 1% move down there if I'm using hard tick targets. That's why typically what I will do is I'll just do it on the 2 years, and then my out of sample is going to be just to put it on a sim, and I'll run it on a sim for a month or three. And if it performs live as well, then I'll throw it on my then I'll throw it on either a prop account, or if I really like, usually it goes sim, prop account, cash account. Like I use the prop accounts kind of as another filter before I put it on my cash accounts. If it's killing it on my prop account, yeah, I'm gonna put that. I'm gonna put that on my cash account too, right? I want to double dip in that. But if it's blowing up my prop accounts, then it's not resilient enough to move to the cash accounts. Now, if you have a strategy in particular that doesn't use hard targets, it uses more of like fixed targets. So by that I mean maybe you're building in like daily levels, fib percentages. Maybe you're using like ATR targets, things like that, then I would feel a little bit better doing like an out of sample on a back date like that. I think that would be okay. And maybe you have a different approach then. Not everyone takes the same approach I do. Whatever works for you, great. The whole point of this server is for us to share what's working for us and to help each other to become better. So if you find something that's working, I would love to hear from you. So we can see some outliers here, so I'll immediately take out market open. And I'm going to take out Euro open. It hates market open, it hates Euro open, so probably go 6 to 11. We'll go 4 to 5:30, and then we'll do 10 a.m. Run that again. Running a little bit towards the hour mark here on the live, so love to answer any questions you have. I don't have a whole lot more on how to optimize more. Like, it's really just understand how the strategy works. Try to find a good time frame, looking at a chart that you're seeing the entries that you want, and then fine tuning those entries by going through your settings, the time of the day. Make sure when you're optimizing time that you don't just over optimize. There has to be a reason for those times not to work. If I see that market opens don't work, that's a really good reason not to use those trading times. If it's just a random half hour of the day, like 4:30 in the morning, like I'm gonna include those because, oh, it helps if I include the other trading times. But hey, I like those results. That's over 3 years, only a $2,700 drawdown. We like those. It's okay also to do, like I said, I do max net profit, but that's usually just right away. You can switch after you get your max net profit to max profit factor. Sometimes when you're doing max profit factor right away, it might only take one trade, because that's a winning trade, and because of the settings you put in, you're not going to get anything usable out of it. Especially if you're doing a big iteration. If you're doing a big iteration, I would always do max net profit, just because you're going to get, and maybe you want to keep more results for that. Time-based exits, I would absolutely think that's okay for doing out of sample back in the day. This actually does have multiple exits built in. Um, I just didn't optimize on those today. So like I have the trailing stop, but I also have something called safe mode on this. And safe mode has right here. Safe mode is something I've been working with where I'll use indicator based exits or trailing profit or something like that. So, all right, we're starting to get some results we like here. So if we look at the equity curve, oh, I may have just froze my ninja. Nope, we're good. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good equity curve. There's going to be times because this is a trend-based algo that maybe it doesn't work, and you can see, the beginning of the year it went through kind of a drawdown period, and now it's at near all-time highs again. And again, middle of last year, went through kind of a sideways period, and it kind of looks like it does that. It goes on a run, sideways period goes on a run, sideways period goes on. It's kind of like how the market goes. We go on runs. We go through a choppy period, we go on runs, we go through choppy period. Because this is a trend-based algo, it makes sense that that would reflect that. And what I'm trying to do is minimize the sideways periods, the drawdown during that time. So, hey, we like this algo. This would be something I would potentially put on a sim server. This one's close enough to the max profit and has $1,000 less drawdown, so I would probably prefer to use that one over the other one. So what we can do there is then just go and lock in these profit targets. I don't love the fact that this has a short profit target and a large stop, so I might play around with that some more. But I'm not going to do that and just sit here all day and optimize in front of you. So I'll probably work on that after and see if I can get something out of it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Um, do another 10-15 minutes for questions, and then the questions don't have to be. I'll stop the stream here and answer any questions. So the questions can be related to anything, doesn't have to be optimizing.